All right, it's now on my channel too. I had to just create.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
And hopefully people will find it because the one that was existing is not existing anymore. But yeah. Oh man. Well, anyways, this is a bummer, but yeah, it is on our channel. So, anyways,
okay, good.
What
awesome.
a thrilling start to this show. The host, the expert, just having massive technical difficulties. Anyways, James, so excited you're here. So excited that we're streaming to your channel. So mostly, hopefully, people on my channel will find the new video. Yeah. Anyways, looks like you got folks though. We got people from all over. We got Meredith. We got Steven in Florida. Where dreams go to die, but then hopefully come back to life like a phoenix. Beverly from Vancouver Island, Indra in Atlanta, April not too far from me in Inglewood, California. Meredith is in Montreal. We got Australians. And it is, I don't think there is live transcription or captions. I don't know. That would be a YouTube feature. Pam, yeah, they found it. Sorry, some of the Arc Studio people found it. Sorry to the Arc Studio people who found the stream. That was I messed up. And that was my fault. So apologies to that. Anyways, I had to create a new stream for it.
But you did on the fly. Well, good for you.
Here we are. All right. So people are already saying what they're from, but basically I wanted to know, we're getting started with where are you? What are you writing today? A lot of people are saying what they are, but I want to know what kind of writing project are you working on today? Are you working on a feature, your pilot, short film? If you're new to this and you're kind of wondering what this is, I want to kind of explain it in a second. But we also are going to start with a discussion question, which I want to know, and I'm going to get James's input on this, is what's your best dialogue writing trip? So if you haven't said it yet in the chat, where are you? What are you working on today? And what is your best dialogue writing tip? And as people are like answering those questions, this is Let's Write Scripts. And basically what we do is timed live writing sprints. So James and I are going to chat a little bit here, talk about dialogue a bit, and then we're going to do our first writing sprint. And during that writing sprint, there's going to be a timer up on screen. We'll be muted. We'll shrink off into little boxes on the side of the screen. We'll play some groovy, vibey music. And then during those sprints, you just work on whatever it is that you came to be here. These aren't like prompted topic sprints. It's like we're all working on different projects. It's just kind of a time for us to come together and really be focused in on our writing, on our creating. And during the breaks between the sprints, James and I will be answering your questions, your screenwriting questions. We can do some industry questions, but primarily craft questions about your writing. It could be about story issues you're having, characters, scene, dialogue, whatever the kind of stuff is. Happy to to answer those questions. So James, I love to see other people coming in. We got Kansas, Kelly, Laura Lataro, Lataro Martinez from Argentina, also from Argentina's. D from Dallas. Beverly's working on a Christmas movie. Steven's working on a pilot. April's working on a dramedy, page 85. Kelly's working on a third draft of the feature. Beverly's got a dialogue writing tip here. Listen to people on the bus and in stores. Pay attention to how they talk. I think that's
good one, Beverly.
A great one. James, I would love to know though, what is your best dialogue writing tip, or I don't know, tips in general, however you interpret this, when it comes to writing great dialogue? What kind of advice do you have to share with people?
Well, thanks for asking. I do think Beverly's what Beverly suggested is good, which is listening to people, because I think that helps you kind of create a voice print for different characters. Because one of the main problems you see, even with experienced writers sometimes, is the tendency that all the characters sound the same. So of course, what you want to be able to do is kind of put your hand over the name and be able to see that's a completely different person, right? So I think listen to how people talk is a good one. I think what I think a lot about is it's funny because when people are reading dialogue, they're actually they're hearing it in their head, right? So it's actually through dialogue is how people connect to your characters. Like it's called theory of mind. It's this kind of neurolinguistic theory, right? So what I try to think about is that I have to feel what the character's feeling. I have to think like the character, because dialogue is thought, right? So I have to think like the character. So I have like a number of tricks I do to try and put myself into the character's shoes and really think the way they're thinking. So a few different tricks I use for that. But how about you, Micah? What are your tricks?
You know, one of the things I was thinking about this is I like to think dialogue as a tool or a weapon, oftentimes, where when we're thinking about our scenes, oftentimes in most scenes, and there can be connecting scenes, transitional scenes, but in a lot of scenes, our characters have goals, right? They're trying to accomplish something in the scene, and a dialogue, or sorry, their dialogue, their words is one of the tools or the weapons, if their goal is to hurt somebody, that they, you know, can use in those scenes. And so it really kind of helps to think about, like, what is your character trying to accomplish? And, you know, how can the dialogue contribute to that aim? Are they there? Are they seducing, charming, bullying, trying to connect? Are they interrogating? Are they opening themselves up? Are they battling in repartee? You know, like whatever kind of their thing is, how can the dialogue be a tool, a means towards the end that they're trying to accomplish? That's one tip that I would share.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'll piggyback on that because I think that's super important. I think you have to know what the goal is, what they're trying to achieve. And then another thing that I like to think about is you think about the goal, like risk reward, you know? So you think about what is the thing they're going for, but what are they risking? You know, we always think about stakes, and stakes are great. I love stakes, but for some reason, I guess because I don't gamble, stakes always seems kind of like kind of abstract to me. So I like to think about risk. So I think dialogue that's really alive is when it's a little bit dangerous, in the sense that the character is risking something. So, you know, when you construct the scene in such a way that the thing they're trying to achieve is going to risk something for them emotionally, then I think you get dialogue that's really alive, and you're following their tactics, you know, because you're talking about their goals and their intentions, like what they're trying to do. Someone who's also playing offense and defense at the same time is going to have really interesting tactics and be really interesting to listen to, right?
One of the things I really love about that also is that it picks up on the idea that, like, dialogue is relational. Like, we oftentimes kind of think of the characters individually, you know, in some sense. Where it's like this person has this voice, this person has this voice, but like it is a back and forth. And one thing that I think is really cool, I mentioned this in one of the videos I made about the bear, which is that you need to remember that the speaker and the listener are two different people, different life experiences, different moods, different personalities. And it can be really cool is that oftentimes what one character is saying, the words they're saying or the meaning they're trying to convey is not the same meaning that the other person is hearing. Like everything is being, you know, it's like you can think of a parent telling their kid to do something and the parent's trying to like just, you know, maybe they have good intentions, but the kid is hearing, you're not good enough, you're always screwing up, you know, like, so the one character is hearing is not the same as what the other character or the speaker is intending, and you can have a lot of fun with the misunderstandings in those situations.
I think that's a great tool. I'll try to think about that as well. It's interesting too because they'll talk about neural coupling. The conversation is a cooperative thing, right? So it is two minds that are kind of coming together, or they're not going together. Right. And so another thing I think about too, because, you know, one of the challenges people have, especially when they're starting, is to avoid those big chunks of dialogue, which we know are death, right? You know, unless it's Tarantino or something like that with his big monologues. For the most part, we want to break that up.
Although I will say one of those things, those big monologues, I think can be really helpful in almost the development stage when you're like trying to figure out your character's POV, like giving them a speech and just having them kind of say it is so helpful. It won't necessarily last, but like I feel like it can be a great kind of step. But I totally know what you mean when you just have those big chunks of dialogue.
It's true though. It's true what you say, because I will do that. And because you start to hear them, you need to have them talk to you in a way, right? So you can sort of pick up their voice print and all of that. But one thing I think about, especially when I'm editing, you know, when I'm going back and I think that's really a lot of where you write the best dialogue, I think, is in the editing process, right? And it's a cooperative thing, even if they're not, like, doesn't mean they like each other, but just the way language is, you know, you kind of pass the ball to me and I hit it back to you and I put a little bit of a spin on it. And it is kind of that back and forth. And that way you avoid some of those big chunky stuff. It's kind of a back and forth, and people are anticipating what you're going to say next, right?
Yeah.
So everyone listening now is anticipating what I'm going to say next. And so, when you're mindful of that, you can throw them off a little bit and have them say the thing they didn't expect. So like it's that thing of, I was just watching, we finally caught up to Slow Horses. For whatever reason, yeah, it's so good. And I don't know why we weren't watching it. I think I know why, but it's because I had written a spy thriller years ago with my writing partner, and it didn't go. So I was sort of like, it was like an ex-girlfriend that I was like kind of pouty about.
There are the whole genre. I was mad at the whole genre. I hold things against, like, that have done nothing to me, but just because, like, I wrote an apartment-based noir mystery thing right before Only Murders in the Building came out, and I just was so angry at that show.
Yeah, right.
Like, for no fault of its own, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this just totally stomped on my little thing that didn't have Steve Martin, behind it. But
I know, it's so funny. I've never seen Mr. Robot for the same reason. I'm sure Mr. Robot's a million times better than what I wrote, but I had a Mr. Robot-esque pilot that I wrote, and then Mr. Robot came out, and I was like, and it was close enough, I just couldn't do anything with it. So yeah, I've never seen Mr. Robot, and I'm mad about it. I'm like,
yeah. I mean,
so that was the reason with Slow Horses I didn't watch it, but we're
so petty. Writers, it's just like, we're so just like emotional little balls of stress and anxiety trying to express ourselves and like connect to the world.
It's funny, right?
Yeah.
So why did I bring up Slow Horses?
The dialogue. Something in the dialogue about it.
I was just noticing in a scene, the other I forget which episode it was, but Jackson was going on, and someone cut him off to say, like, yeah, I've heard this a million times, right? And that's that thing, like you're talking about relational, is that we have to remember these people have been around each other, especially if they've known each other for a long time, and so you can, that interaction between the two people, it feels real,
Yeah.
And
it's interesting, the feel real thing, though, because the important part for me in that phrase, feel real, is the feel part, because like, it is so helpful to like pick up dialogue. And there was something Ciaran mentioned, he likes to think of an actor in mind, and I think that could be great. But also just like going back to the bus thing earlier, like just someone in your life, like you have an uncle or a cousin who just has a way about them, and so you can channel that, but like it's also false, right? Like you're not necessarily really, it's not like you're just transcribing real life most of the time into your scenes. Like it's a verisimilitude, like you're approximating it, but it's like there is some trickery kind of involved. People aren't fully real kind of in these scenes because you sort of need them to be doing things that you need them to be doing. So there's a balance there that could be tricky, when it comes to dialogue.
Absolutely. It's, as you said, it's a how do you say that word?
Verisimilitude? Yeah.
That's a tricky one.
It's a word that, like, when I say the first syllable, I just kind of cross my fingers and like, let's hope I can make it through the end.
Right. And I thought I had it, and nope, you don't have it. You don't have it.
Right. This is great. Sorry. Even silence is part of the dialogue, especially from my husband.
Especially from my hubby. How you doing?
There is meaning, in the gaps. In the silences, they are
absolutely,
as they say.
And funny enough, that's Jana, who's in my pilot course, and Jana did something in her script that I think is really great. We're using action lines as dialogue, right? Because they'll say, like, McKee and everyone, and it's true, we said it too, is that dialogue is action, but it can kind of go the other way too, right? So, like, for example, in Jana's script, she had the couple are kind of arguing, and she's looking for a mug, and she used this moment where the character opened the dishwasher, looked in the top rack, looked for the mug, and paused, and it just went in perfectly with the dialogue, and that action said something. You know what I mean? So silences say something, but also action as well, behavior.
And the opposite of that. I think that's so true, because it's also like or not the opposite of that, but I think that leads to another thing where, in the sense that, why words, right? Because so much of storytelling is cinematic, is visual, right? Like you don't necessarily need words to convey that you're angry, that you're sad, that you're disappointed in someone. So it's kind of like, when you're thinking about, like, okay, then what's the dialogue on top of that? What nuance or shading or
what's something new?
Surprise,
You're bringing to it.
that the dialogue can be adding, because it's like you look angry and you say, I'm angry. Okay, you reinforced it. It's not bad, but it's not the best. But if you can look angry and use the dialogue to twist that, to surprise, to add something new, then you're cooking, really.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You got those two layers going on. I
definitely.
saw Stephen, who's one of my students as well, brought up a really good one
Oh, this one?
is that yeah, exactly. Rarely answer the question asked, right? Is a really good one. And it's funny, I can't remember the exact moment, but it was a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago when I realized that, oh yeah, not to make your characters dicks, but in a way, it's like every time they answer a question or give information, they're giving up something. That's how I see it, right? Which is certainly not how I go through life. I'm a bit of an open book. I mean, I tell everybody everything, too much information. So it was like a real adjustment. It's not how I am. But when I got almost kind of stingy with that, I noticed in Slow Horses too, there was a moment where Jackson was asked a question that he really should have answered, but he didn't. And I was like, yeah, because the writer's like, no, he doesn't have to. So unless it's absolutely necessary, hold that information in.
And
right?
he's always him. Like the character being a dick thing. I think that's great, because, and it's not necessarily that like in his case, he's literally, I mean, he's a jerk, he's an asshole, but like, have them be like uncompromisingly themselves, right? Because I feel like in real life, if someone says something, you sort of accommodate it, like, and you're like, oh, that's fine, I understood what you, but like, and you kind of, you're polite or something, but like, and I feel like this is such a thing in comedy sometimes, where like so many times, like the last joke will be from the character being themselves in a way that is surprising, because it's not how a normal, like Larry David kind of does this stuff all the time, right? Where it's like, or in that kind of comedy where it's like he'll say something and it's one of those things where you're shocked kind of, because, and so many sitcoms have this, I feel like, in particular, where the character will say something that's kind of shocking or whatever, because it's not how the audience would have responded to that situation, but it works because it's how that character would have responded to the situation. So like keeping in mind that your characters are always themselves. They're never you. They're never the average kind of person. Like they're always themselves here.
That's such great advice. And that's, oh man, I don't know like when that happened for me, but it's at a certain point, and it's still, you know what, it's still a struggle. I still sometimes have to really remind myself, this person's not me, because it's so hard, because you should write what you know. You should write what you feel, because it's so immediate and you can dial into the character, right? And it feels real. Like when you read a script and it's someone's lived experience, it just lifts off the page, right?
Yeah.
But then the really hard part of that is that when you over-identify with the character, then you start defending them and you start protecting them, right? And you can't do that, right? You have to push your character out there. You have to let them be an asshole, and you have to see the world. I think sometimes what happens, I think especially maybe for more emerging writers, is that when they over-identify with their hero or their protagonist, they tend to make that person really passive, because if you think about it, you're in here and I'm surrounded by crazy people. None of you people, you're all awesome. I love everyone here is awesome. But all the rest of them who aren't here are crazy, right? That's how I see the world. And I see them as acting on me, right? So I don't see myself as a terribly active person, because I'm me. I don't see myself. So I think that's another thing that happens. You get very passive heroes because the person's just letting it come to them all the time, as opposed to, like, sometimes you want to say, sometimes I do say, make the secondary character, the one who's full of life and got all the great lines and is so interesting and well-defined, make them the hero, because this hero is kind of just a stiff, right?
Yeah.
If
your character is an island of reasonableness in a raging sea of insanity, like that's not like, I mean, that's been done. Like there are a lot of shows where you have that kind of a thing, but like it's something to look at, and be like, okay, well, can he or she can they be doing something more? I love this. I just want to run a couple quick things people share in the chat before we get into the first writing sprint, because we could talk about this all day. I like Dr. Steve here saying that in the first draft, I have the dialogue tell me the whole story. In final draft, all that should be replaced by only what the character would say in their unique voice. I think that's thinking a bit draft by draft. It's kind of what I was saying about earlier. where you can have like a monologue, give your character a speech. The speech might not make it into the end, but like it's telling you what their point of view is, and it can be so helpful. So definitely in the first draft, you don't have to be shading all your dialogue perfectly if that's not your
let them talk, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Let them talk.
Juno, dialogue is the character being clear, urgent, sneaky, deceptive. Yeah, kind of going into their motivations. How would their language reflect that? I love that. Amanda reminding us to read the dialogue out loud and make sure it sounds like a human being, which is a fantastic piece of advice. Kelly just throwing in, also wrote an apartment-based noir and is mad at Steve Martin like I did. Kelly, mine was also based in LA too. So we both wrote LA-based apartment noirs that were trampled by Steve Martin. So we share a nemesis. And also the elephant in the room here. What's not being said is an elephant in the room. Great to increase tension. Love it.
Yeah.
Great advice. All right. I love the spirit here. This is all great. Man, this is awesome. So, but I feel like we should take this energy that we're all feeling here, this vibe, and channel it into our writing. So we're going to do our first writing sprint. So if you're new or you joined late, possibly joined late because I messed up the stream, then what's going to happen is that I'm going to put a timer up on the screen. 15. We're going to be, the first one's just 15 minutes. It's a warm-up sprint. Then the second one's longer, 25, kind of a full Pomodoro. So for the intro sprint, there'll be a 15-minute timer. James and I are going to shrink and be muted. We'll be off to the side in little boxes. And I'm going to play some groovy music to get in the zone. And for 15 minutes, just, focus on your work. For the intro sprint, low bar. Don't put too much pressure on yourselves. Oftentimes I feel like you're reading back over, especially if you're just starting to write for the day, getting your head back into it, maybe reading back over what you had before, just kind of free writing maybe, or whatever it is, whatever you're ready. After that, we'll come back and we're going to answer screenwriting questions that you guys have. And then we'll do another sprint. So we're going to do it. So I'm going to put 15 minutes on the clock here. I'm going to get the music going here. And I'm going to slow my voice down a little bit because the music's pretty chill. And I don't want to have that sudden gear shift. This is kind of the spacey, getting our heads in the game. So, James, you ready to do some writing?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
15 minutes on the clock. Here we go. right. This brings us smoothly. I try to be very calm in this transition because people are like lost in the music, and then I just jump on and be like, we're back, and people jump out of their seats. But that was the first writing sprint. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is Let's Write Scripts, brought to you by Arc Studio Screenwriting Software. I'm Micah Crowdy, the head of writing at Arc Studio. If you're interested, you can check it out at arcstudiopro.com. Very special episode today. We're doing a dual stream, streaming to the Arc Studio channel and to James Hurst's channel as well. So we got people watching on multiple YouTube channels. It's pretty exciting. This is the wave of the future. It's technology. We're a little scared by it, but I think other than the opening where I completely messed everything up, it seems to be going pretty well so far. James, well, I want to know for everyone else, first off, welcome if you just joined. If you did that writing sprint, everyone, how did it go? Are the muses with us? Were you feeling good? Were the creative ideas flowing? Or were you a little stuck? Are the muses, caught in traffic? Are they angry at you? We were talking about dialogue earlier. Did you say something to the dialogue, to the muses, and they're taking it out of you? Let me know in the chat. And if you're dealing with something specific, feel free to ask us. Any questions or problems that you're dealing with, with your dialogue, with your story, with your character, with your structure, with the scene structure, anything like that, please ask your screenwriting questions in the chat, and James and I will do our best to answer them. James, how was that sprint for you?
It was good and bad.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, and why start now? It was good and bad. I feel like I got some, so I'm in the story phase. Of a feature script that I'm writing, and so there's some certain things that I'm kind of battling, and I feel like I had a really good breakthrough on something, but I wish it's always a little bit like I find this stage of things, story breaking, right? It's always a little bit of a challenge, like, and people tend to in the room, like, I tend to be known as good at story, but I don't feel like I am. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I am, but I guess, right? It's sort of, I guess, fog of war. So so good and bad.
I feel like story is one of those things where, like, you only notice it when it's going poorly, right? Because, like, when it's going well, you're writing, right? Like, it's going well, then suddenly it's story and structure and it's not working. So I totally get that. There's a what do they call it? A confirmation bias. I kind of feel like where you only.
Can you tell me again, what is confirmation bias again?
Confirmation bias is like when you sort of only notice the things that confirm your bias,
right?
And you ignore all the other ones. So if you
have every other indicator, gotcha.
It's often used for stereotypes. You notice the person that follows the stereotype and you completely ignore the 99% of other people who don't, follow the stereotype. We didn't actually, yes, James, you and I didn't really talk about what we're working on. So you said you're working on a feature in the story phase. I'm also working on a new feature. It's actually something I was pitching and I developed as a pitch, and it was an animated thing. And I'm actually writing it as a live action, and I'm kind of excited about it because it's a departure for me. Because I usually write kind of adult, dark comedy, thrillery kinds of things. And this is kind of a teenage protagonist, a little genre horror to it, but also kind of coming of age story. It's a little more big tent kind of than the things I write. And so I'm having a lot of fun. And so I was kind of working on my opening sequence, and I'm kind of doing the classic, thing with the horror where your teaser is something scary and intense, and then you jump to the character thing, and then you build kind of. So I was opening on my kind of opening teaser horror sequence and having a lot of fun with that. Seeing some people were having some good sprints. Kelly was having one. Meredith was a little stuck, but working on another script next time. Paula's muses are active. So Pamela had a great sprint, writing a story close to your heart, self-identifying too much with the protagonist. So freed up from that. Awesome. Able to write. This is kind of what you were talking about, James, right? Where you were separation. So great advice there. Some questions kind of coming in here that we can answer. Let's see here. What do we got here? Steven's asking unfilmables in character intros, yay or nay? James, do you have any initial thoughts?
Yeah, and I know Stephen. Hey, Stephen. So what you're referring to, Stephen, is the kind of character introductions. Tell me if I'm right. I think I am. When you give a bit of a flavor of the character that isn't technically filmable. And I think we've talked about this, I think last time too, Mike. That's one area where you can kind of break the rule, right? Because it's technically what only what you can see and hear. I think also what can be acted, I think, or I think you could include that too, I'd argue. But so Stephen, I'm all for it because, first impressions are everything.
Yeah.
And if it's like, cop 50s, now maybe for a cop that's okay because we all have such strong ideas of what a cop looks like. But if it's Gary 50s, well, what's that? So I'm very pro doing an unfilmable thing.
Yeah, I always say it's the vibe. The vibe is more important than specifics, right? In sort of a sense. And so if it can be kind of an abstract. Like I remember I was talking a buddy of mine who's a sitcom writer. I did an interview with him, and he had this great example that always stuck with me, where it's like, we were talking about like a giant, big guy walking into a bar, and I'm talking about like, yeah, you could say, like the crowd parts in front of him or something, and then like my buddy said, he doesn't move through the room moves around him, and I'm like, yeah, that's an unfilmable, but you get that guy, who he. So like if you can, I guess it's like an encapsulation kind of. If you can encapsulate their vibe, their how the world perceives them and interacts with them, because that's kind of the same thing that you're asking the audience, the reader, to do of your script, is like, how are they going to react? I also did a video on this on the Arc Studio channel, if you want to check that out, on character intros, where I looked at a bunch of different ones. So some more there. Let's see here. Must I have my main character in the first scene? If not, how long can I go before introducing them? I think those are two. The first question is much simpler, which is no, you don't have to have your main character in your first scene. How long can I go before introducing them is a little more, I mean,
depends, right?
Depends. What kind of story are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, I always say pretty soon, which is not like
pretty soon. You don't want to go too far.
Yeah,
because the audience has got to connect to your main character, right? Sorry to cut you off. The audience has got to connect to the main character. But now, I'm not a Star Wars obsessive, although I probably look like one. Just watch Star Wars: A New Hope, and you don't meet Luke for the first 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But it's you do meet him because you have to connect to someone. And the longer you go, the chances are you might not connect. But hey, you could argue Psycho. There's always those sort of rule breakers. The main character really is Norman Bates. You don't meet him till 30 minutes in, right? So it all depends, right?
This is the kind of where I feel like we can talk more general tendencies, because there's just the vast varied tapestry of cinematic storytelling is such that there's going to be so many different ways, and we don't want to limit you that you have to tell your story this way. Generally, if it's not the first sequence, though, it's usually the second sequence. Oftentimes, like we're talking about in horror movies, the first sequence doesn't have the protagonist. The first sequence
like Scream, right? It's Drew Barrymore in Scream,
The first sequence is someone getting killed who then isn't necessarily part of it. And then you meet the protagonist. So early, but doesn't have to be there. Let's see here. Curious if folks use Notion for screenwriting and organizing notes. Any template recommendations? I think using like software. One, there's the classic, just you can use note cards, just like pin them to a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I will do an Arc Studio plug where Arc Studio has the plot board where you can do digital note index cards and drag and drop them around, and it works really well. Any other, James, kind of organizational techniques or tools that you use in terms of figuring out your
in terms of
I'm thinking structure, I guess story structure kind of is how I'm
beats and things like that.
Yeah.
I funny enough, I was just it's real old school. There's not a lot of room there. So so I'll start there, and then go to cards, or I do miss having big whiteboards. You know, I used to love on Degrassi was a million years ago, but we had a whole room full of whiteboards, and that was great, right? I loved I love being able to look at the whole thing. But I use index cards. I do want to start getting used to using beats like Arc Studio Pro, which I have been using, and I do quite like actually. Not a plug, but I do think it's quite good. And Final Draft also has a beat board, so I'm trying to get myself to use it. But I do find, you know, you may have, well, I'm sure, don't know why anyone would notice, but at this stage of the game, I tend to be more pen to paper. Don't know why. It's like probably the only time I really use a notepad is for this kind of thing, or for taking notes during a meeting.
I find the more that I overwhelmed I feel, the more I'm drawn back to the pen and paper. Like, and I'll often do that for my free writing. Sometimes I'll return to it where I'm just like, I need to go away from sort of the infinite power and possibility of the computer and just be, you know, with my pen and my notepad. Yeah. All right. Juliet asks, my feedback says to have characters be more reactive. Other than sarcasm and weirdness, how else can I do this? That's interesting. I feel like often the
it's generally not
thing is to be more proactive. I wonder if by reactive they mean more some flavors of proactivity, kind of. I'm
wondering if I may go out on a limb. I'm wondering, Juliet, and we're playing detective with your comment here, but I wonder if it's having your characters react to what's going on, because something I do see happen, obviously don't know Juliet and her writing, which I'm sure is awesome, is that sometimes we forget to let our heroes, our protagonists, really react to the things that are happening, right? So I'm just kind of context clues, sarcasm, and weirdness. Maybe that's what you're responding to, Juliet.
Maybe it's more action, because think of them as like billiard balls on a table, right? If your character is, you know, the 7 of whatever, and the cue ball hits them, right? They react, they go off on something. So if your character is receiving challenge, attack, a surprise, something that their actions, their course of their journey is affected by that in some way. So that maybe could be another thing. Again, we're sort of doing a little forensic guesswork here, but that the impacts of the world are reflected in the character's action. They're just not sort of just going in a straight line.
Emotional reactivity is what she's responding to here. So I think that's the thing, is like, you know, you have to integrate this. What you're just saying, Mike, is you have to integrate the plot and the character's reaction to it. You know, we want to know, as the character gets hit, as you're just saying, the character gets hit by the ball and is going in a direction. I want to know how it's affecting them. I want to know what they think is happening. That's what I find that I'm often giving that note is, what do they think is going on here?
Yeah, that's great.
You know, right? Get inside their head as much as possible without them telling us, you know, reporting their feelings. We don't want that. But
another character question here from Chris. How do I write a passive protagonist? I know they must actively choose to go on the quest, never be lured or tricked into it. My hero is timid. Her arc is all about finding that confidence. I would say the easiest thing I have to say is that if your character doesn't want to move through the world, or then if your character doesn't want to move, the world wants to move them, right? So you can think about, I don't know why this just popped in my head, but Up, right? So the old man, Carl, is that his name? I can't remember.
Carl.
Yeah. He doesn't want to do anything. He just wants to sit in his house. And so if he just wants to sit in his house and not leave, then a developer is going to come and try to knock his house down. So if your character doesn't want to do anything, I'd say the easiest thing is have the world come do things to them, because that's still then kind of forcing them, you know, into it, or some sort of reaction, you know, to that. And so like with that thing, your character doesn't want to do anything. They're in their house and their house is getting knocked down. Well, what do they have to do? They have to go to City Hall to file some sort of petition against it or something. And you know, now they're forced because your character wants something, right? Your character wants the status quo to stay the status quo. So what do they have to do in order to accomplish that goal of keeping the status quo? They're going to fail, they're going to change, but like that's kind of their goal. That's how I would approach it, I think. James, what do you
I think that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, look at it as the status quo, and not wanting to change. I think is a really, really good way to look at it, because they do have to take some action. Like, as you were just saying, they do have to go in that version. They have to go to City Hall. They have to do something. And I think that's the thing. I think her arc is all about finding that confidence. I mean, I think that absolutely could work. I just worry a little bit when you say my hero is timid. Not to say, obviously, I mean, look, one of the best if you want to learn structure, right? Wizard of Oz. It's fantastic, right? It's just one of the best for structure. It's perfect, structurally perfect movie. And I know we're not talking about structure, but Dorothy is, I think you could say, sort of starts off anyways pretty timid. I think, I don't know if she's a big fighter, but she sure does find her strength. I would just worry a little bit, Chris, about her arc is all about finding that confidence. Just make sure she doesn't find the confidence in the last scene. You know what I mean? Because like, you look at Dorothy, right? Like, I think that'd be the only danger. Right?
They need to want, I feel like they need to want something. And they have to go after, they can be uncomfortable with it as they do it, though. I think that's kind of a thing about confidence, is you can still be active without feeling comfortable with it.
Good
so,
point.
you know,
Good
so
point.
just make sure make sure that the timidness doesn't result in passivity.
Passivity. You know, I just thought of something too, Mike, because you mentioned up, because you're absolutely right, and there is a way to thread that needle, right? And we don't want to kind of stomp. I don't want to stomp on. I don't think you were. I think maybe I was being a little bit negative. I just thought of an example. Now, it was a movie that actually tanked because it came out. I mean, the poor filmmakers. It came out right like the worst time, right at the beginning of COVID, and everything was shut down. And I'm not saying it was a great movie. What the hell was it called? It was Pixar, Disney Pixar, whatever. And it was the one with where like fantasy is real and they're all sort of like real creatures. God, I'm forgetting the name. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was in it. And the main character in that, I think it was the Spider-Man kid. What's his name? Tom Holland. And his brother is Chris Pratt. And his brother is the active one. Right. So it turns out like the whole I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of it. It was called like.
So someone in the chat can jump in, maybe. Does anyone know?
Yeah. Onward. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Ray. Onward. Yeah. And I'm not saying Onward is, by the way, like the greatest movie, but it's an example of one where the hero was passive, timid, but joined at the hip to someone who was the absolute opposite of that and is going to rush in, guns blazing, and kind of overboard. So if you've got a timid character, you might want to pair them with someone who's the opposite so that you can get them going, right? Do you think that makes sense, Micah?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's one of the things where I always like to say, remember, they're supporting characters, not minor characters, that they have a role. So if you can have a character that is doing that, pushing them, needling them, you know, they are the strength until they could walk on their own, kind of thing.
I like that.
So there's a lot of different ways, you know, that you could do with it, but just, it's really helps if they just want something that's under threat. And then, because characters don't want to change, they don't want to face obstacles.
That's right.
And that's where, like, we were talking a little about stakes earlier, but like, that's where she's going to lose something if she doesn't do whatever.
She doesn't act. She doesn't have to be stoked about it, but she's got to do something. Black Swan's another one where Nina isn't necessarily the most confident person by any stretch. And Nina's a good example of that. But that is the arc of Black Swan. That's what it is about, is her finding her strength. And maybe that's true for you as well, Chris. I see Chad, my buddy Chad, asked a question. The big event around page 25 should have your character answer the call. They can be as passive as you want until then. Yes, James. Yes, Chad. I do believe you are right, sir. What do you think, Micah?
Yeah, I have to say, I get nervous whenever people start mentioning page numbers. Like I'm a rebel creative artist person. Don't tell me when I should do things, even if it just so happens that most of the time it does work out the way that you said it is.
Yeah.
So I don't, again, there's lots of different ways to tell a story, but like, yeah, your character oftentimes is going on a journey at some point, which means they weren't going on a journey. They have a status quo that is then broken and set. First or last, this should be on the YouTube channels, just so you know. There's more questions, but we should do another writing sprint because we've just been talking so much. This is such great. We could just, maybe we'll do one, James, in the future that's just us answering questions, like a script doctor session or something, because I just feel like we could just do that for 2 hours and just answer all these questions. But we need to do, we have some more questions. I know we'll come back. We're going to do another sprint because this is the 25-minute sprint, and it is I like to call it the Goldilocks sprint because you're warmed up, but you're not too tired. It's just perfect. So I'm going to put 25 minutes on the clock. I'm going to play some more music. James and I are going to shrink again off to the sides. Don't worry. In real life, we're fine. It's only our images that are shrinking. We'll be muted. And then after 25 minutes, we'll come back. We'll answer some more questions. I'm going to show the sandwich of the week, which if you're new and you're wondering why does he keep talking about sandwiches, you'll see. You'll see. It's a thing. It's a thing I do. But here we go. Where's the music here? 25 minutes on the clock. James, ready to jump back into it? Yes, sir. Let's do it. All right. That brings us to the end of the second writing sprint here on Let's Write Scripts for Wednesday, November 19th. I am once again Micah Crady, the head of writing at Arc Studio Screenwriting, the best screenwriting software in the world, I think. And you can check it out at arcstudiopro.com to start writing your script for free, or Google it. And joined by the international sensation, James Hurst, the great northern threat. I don't know what to say there. The Canadian with the what do you say about Canadians? They're very polite.
We're too nice. No, we're too polite. Actually, someone was saying the other day that the thing is about Canadians is that we're not nice. We're just polite. I think it seems like we're really not that nice. Very polite though.
Yeah, in the U.S. we call that Midwest nice, which I think the Midwest is the part of Canada that's most, or the Midwest part of the U.S. that's most Canadian.
What I was thinking, having spent time a little bit of time in Minnesota, I think Minnesota is very Canada. I don't know if Minnesotans feel good about that, but I feel very at home. I feel very at home there.
It makes sense. They're geographically,
it's cold.
All that stuff. It's cold. It's north. It's exactly. And it's like, what is it, like 90% of Canada's population is within like 10 miles of the U.S. border. I made up that stat, but it's something like that. We're like,
sounds right.
Yeah. So you're basically Minnesotans anyways, is my point. I want to know, everyone who did that writing sprint, how did it go? If you were struggling with the first writing sprint, did things pick up in the second one? If you're doing well in the first writing sprint, did the second one take a nosedive? And again, I think we could probably answer a few more questions. We are running late. James, how are you doing on time? When do you need to jet? Are you doing all right to chat?
I'm doing good.
All right, great. Cool. We have some more questions from earlier that I want to get into. James, maybe you can take first crack on this. What are both of your approaches to writing the midpoint event? I'm having trouble because I'm doubting whether my midpoint choice is interesting enough. What do you think, James? Midpoints?
I'm all about midpoints. I think they're so important. I think particularly in a pilot, just being the kind of nature of a pilot, but I'm sure features as well. I think midpoints, and Pamela, you might be asking a plot question, but I think the most important thing for the midpoint is the character. For me, it's such an important moment for the character to commit and say, I'm in this now. I always like to think of Act 2 as they can kind of split it in half. I guess you can with the midpoint. And so it's very helpful for me because Act 2 is so long, right, in a feature. And so the midpoint to me is about character. And I think that's what the audience is going to take away from it, more than maybe plot. So, but what do you think? What do you think?
I like that because I kind of like to think of it as an accelerator that like launches you towards the climax. It's sort of like, there's some of those certain roller coasters have the things where they just rocket you out, sort of like a slingshot. But I really like the idea of seeing that through a character lens in some sense, where it's like something has happened to them, or they've reacted to some new information, or something has happened where like they are kind of in it. Like you could picture
they're in it now and they're not going to back out, right? And that's how I like to. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just kind of made up example where it's like the person they thought was their friend or the bad guy is dead, and now there's a new thing. It's just like there's something that's just oh, we are moving now towards kind of the towards the climax. Sorry, what were you gonna
Oh, that's great. It is funny enough, if there is a big secret, it is often where you might reveal it. Maybe not the big secret like Sixth Sense, but like my friend is actually a traitor or something like that is a good place to do it, because it's that emotion is what we're looking for, right? Is that the character is, I always like to see it as like in the first half, the hero would never, but they could walk away. They'd never do it, but they could, and then at the midpoint, they're like, no, I'm in it all the way now, emotionally, not plot, but emotion wise, I think is how I like to look at it. So I think it's super important.
I like that. It's just like you're on the tracks, your course is set kind of. And so the only way out is through. And we're going to I'm using a lot of different vague phrases and stuff because it's kind of a vibe, because it's like there are so many different kinds of stories and journeys that characters can be going on. So it's hard to say like this needs, to have. Pam, I know you mentioned this before. I know this is, I think, something that you've been wrestling with a lot. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly where you are in the process, Pam, but like you know, if you're getting stuck there in your writing, sometimes just you have to move forward with the midpoint you have, and it's not until you get kind of to the end that you can go back and improve it. You know, sometimes you have to write that draft with it, because you say if you're doubting whether there's a phrase that I have used and heard from other writers a lot, which is try it. If you're doubting whether it's interesting enough, sometimes you just have to do it, and then you'll see if it is or not, and you really can't know necessarily until
you try it.
Meredith, I heard someone say you should have almost 0 action lines because executives don't read anything at all, but the dialogue. I would say that's a strong assertion. There may be some nuggets of truth in there. James, what would you?
Yeah, I think. Well, hey, Meredith. Meredith's a student of mine from Montreal. How you doing? I think there's some real truth to the idea that people skim. I think people skim a lot. You know, you got a mountain of scripts on your desk, and you're going to find economies. So, but I would never say don't write action lines, because then it's just going to be too talky, right? And some of the best dialogue you can write, like we talked about before, is an action line. So I like to think of it as a dance between dialogue and action lines, right? Have a bit of a dance between them, because you can't just be all dialogue. It's going to be too talky. It's going to be a play. No, nothing against plays. Theater's awesome. But I do think that I wouldn't say no action lines. But what I do think is true is that I have seen, sort of a separate point, but I have seen sometimes with emerging writers, is they'll put, you know, maybe important plot information that is in the action lines that isn't being reflected in the dialogue. So if someone was really skimming, they might miss it. My feeling is, and this kind of even goes back to, I've forgotten the name of the one we were talking to before about not having a reaction to things. I do think it's important that if there's an important emotional beat, put it in dialogue. But so that's my take.
I'm going to come up with a little counter.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
I had a thought here. It's not that spicy, but I would say this. If someone's skimming your script, they're not going to buy it. You know, like in some sense, like I understand that people are like, you're skimming the script, but like if someone isn't really paying attention to the script, then they're not engaged in it, you know,
but yeah,
so
I know what you mean.
But my next step basically on that is I think in some sense but this is helpful in the sense that people want to skim. Ask yourself, in some sense, why would they want to read my action lines? Like, make the action lines
that's
compelling for them. Like, don't take the notion of, okay, they don't want to read action lines and then mean it, therefore I don't write them. Take the meaning they don't want to do it, therefore how do I write them in such a way that I can grab their attention and I can get them to read the action lines. And there are different ways to do that. I think, you know, some writers are very voicey in their action lines, and they're very fun to write. I think that can go overboard at times and it can be hard to pull off, but like your action lines, you know, I always think that like all the aspects of your script should reflect the tone of your script. So like if you're writing a comedy, like your action lines can be funny. You know, if you're writing a horror, there can be tension and drama in there. There can be emotional, if you're writing a character drama, there can be emotional, just crushing things, you know, like put the emotion and the tone of the entire piece into sort of how you are doing that. If it's a spare thriller action movie, then yeah, pretty quick, you know, like you're not necessarily spending a lot of time in there. So I would say that take that notion that yes, people can see this as a wall of text so they don't want to read it, and try to think, how do I make that something?
How do I make them read it? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. All right. Some more structure questions. In a 3-act structure, how would you suggest pacing a second act so you avoid running it too long, but still keep it engaging? The second act, I feel like, is sort of the strange, everyone kind of knows how to start a story and they know how to end a story, but the middle, which is your movie, weirdly, is sort of the most bizarro, just really hard to fathom one, James. So like, how do you pacing that thing that's so nebulous?
That's
like, and then
that is the
happen.
hard part. Yeah. Act 2 is the hardest, and that's why they pay us the medium bucks, right? If you're getting paid. Yeah, Act Two is brutal. What really helped me, Zoe, not to repeat myself, is that Act 2 is psychologically intimidating, I think, for writers, right? But as you said, Mike, it is the movie, so you really got to nail it, right? You know, so many times you read a script and the first 10 pages are amazing because the writer kept rewriting the first 10 pages, you know, and it's so good. And you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. And then Act 2 maybe falters, and is super normal too, by the way. Act 2s are death. Act 2s are the hardest things in the world. Super helpful for me. It really helped me. The midpoint we were talking about before is to see Act 2 and really kind of split it in half.
Yeah.
Right. And then kind of give a flavor to each act. And then that way it doesn't become this massive thing that's just sort of unwieldy. But I know Sid Field also talks about pinches. So he puts those pinches in the middle as well, which I think people do as well. But that's my take. What do you think, Micah?
I think, going back to the midpoint really helps, because I feel like if you can make the second half a different flavor, a different speed, a different world oftentimes, then that really helps break it up. I feel like I feel more and more writers kind of talking about Act 2A and 2B kind of, you know, because it is just kind of Act 2 is it's too big. It's not all the same thing. And sort of like kind of lumping it all together kind of makes it overwhelming. Yeah. And, you know, you have kind of think about, you know, oftentimes you have the fun and games kind of portion at the front, and then it's not a game anymore portion in the back half. And that's like one way maybe kind of to think of it. But again, that might not apply to every script, but just kind of as a general way of thinking about it. I also just want to share this because I know people, you see, if you're watching on James' his channel, you see the kind of the comments, I think, from James, that audience. And if you're watching it on ours, watch it. PJ over here in the Arc Studio channel is working on a thing where he was in Navajo land with a ranger, and he saw a skinwalker. And I just want to like highlight this out because it's one of the most kind of just bizarre things that I've seen. But PJ just loved this, where I just need to share. I just want everyone needs to just see this.
I'm going back and hey, PJ.
He basically went out with the ranger, filmed the whole thing. He saw a skinwalker in the woods or the land in the nature, but the camera wasn't pointed with it. You know, the camera didn't see it. So I'm like, okay. So his question was, how do you kind of deal with this if the camera didn't see it? And I'm like, well, you have to show the reactions. Kind of, you have to show it through how it affected people. But then he just says, and I asked about how it lingers with them, and he says, how it lingers with me personally, I feel crazy when I tell people I saw a kangaroo the size of a car running at a speed I cannot explain. And that's just one of the more insane things I've heard on Let's Write Scripts, and I just wanted to make sure everyone saw that. PJ, that's crazy that you saw that out there.
That's quite weird, I would say, PJ.
Yeah,
very on brand.
I just want go weird with PJ. There we go. All right. I also just want to say here, because we're kind of getting late here. Next week, if you're new to Let's Write Scripts, this happens almost every Wednesday on the Arc Studio Screenwriting channel at Arc Studio Screenwriting. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. You're free just to show up at 1 p.m. or anytime there and join. Next week, I won't be doing it because of Thanksgiving, or American Thanksgiving down here for our Canadian friends. But after that, it's basically every week. And so please feel free to show up. And then, James, you have something coming up as well. Right?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the plug. I feel like I'm on TV. Yes, I'm doing a webinar this Saturday. I'm going to drop the comment here. And I know some of you have already signed up for it. I'm doing a webinar this Saturday all about dialogue, because I'm very passionate about dialogue, and have some thoughts and some tools that I want to share with you all. So you can head there to sign up for it. And it is a one-time only thing. I'm not going to do it again, which sounds like very final. Like I'm kind of mad at it, but that is not the plan. So go check it out. It's quite affordable. It's only $27. And it's an opportunity for me to talk about something I'm super passionate about. which is writing real dialogue, writing dialogue that, and we were talking about it before, Micah, real dialogue shouldn't sound real, but it should feel real. So how do you do that? So I've got 5 tools. And really the idea is that it's like, how can you, if you've ever written dialogue or written a scene, I think we all have, and gone, oh my God, who wrote this? This is terrible. What can you do about it? So I'm offering 5 tools to rescue that dialogue and bring it to life. So
cool.
Thank you for
that. Hurst.com/stop fake dialogue on the screen. Awesome. And now, of course, I promised that we would show the sandwich of the week.
Oh,
this is the sandwich of the week. This is a salmon, actually, sandwich on ciabatta. I like this angle. So we have air fried salmon, cheddar, greens, pickle, tomato, mustard, and a mayo on this just beautiful ciabatta. And if people are wondering why am I showing a sandwich, it's something we do here on Let's Write Scripts, where I just show the best looking sandwich that I made this week. This one was also delicious. There's something with pickle and salmon together, that dill and the mayo that just really pops. And so this is the sandwich of the week. And just to give people like a flavor of some of the other sandwiches of the week, this was a beauty one that I did recently that just kind of was a masterpiece. This was a sesame bagel with egg and turkey, and just really was just a beauty. So just a little sample of if you come back to Let's Write Scripts, you get a little sandwich comment. Although I'm kind of been doing sandwiches for a while and might retire them soon or put them on take hiatus, as they say.
Oh, you can't. I'm not going to let you.
It's hard. It's just to like every week have to come up with a sandwich that it's.
Oh my God. Well, God bless you. Yeah. I mean, I know now I'm starving.
That's why I said tend to wait till near the end to show the sandwich of the week. James, do you have time to do a 15-minute sprint here at the end to close things off? Should we do that? Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to do this. Yeah. I know we have gone. Sorry, Pamela does not want me to hiatus the sandwich of the week. Peanut butter and banana. I've never done a peanut butter and banana sandwich here. We're going to do one short little sprint. We've kind of gone long because we've just so much great discussion, which is just fantastic. So if you have to leave, that's fine. This is a kind of show up and leave whenever you want to, kind of a thing. But say farewell in the chat and let us know how it went. Again, in 2 weeks, I'll be doing this again. I do it every week, but it's off next week. You can go to the Arc Studio channel at Arc Studio Screenwriting. You can also RSVP for the next time at arcstudiopro.com/events right there. Please check out James, his dialogue event again, which one more time is at James A. Hurst /Stop Fake Dialogue. That is all our plugs and announcements. We're going to do one last sprint. So I know you're tired, your brains are frazzled, but let's try to focus in and just get 15 more minutes of writing done before we go on our separate ways. So 15 minutes on the clock to keep us company. Here we go. And that brings us to the end of Let's Write Scripts for Wednesday, November 19th. I want to thank everyone so much for joining us. James, I want to thank you so much for being here, and to everyone from James's channel for checking us out. I hope you had a great time. Remember, this happens on the Arc Studio channel, usually every Wednesday, but we'll be back December 3rd because Thanksgiving's next week, December 3rd, 1 p.m. Love to have you guys. It's free. You can come whenever you want and write. It's so great. Remember to check out James's website, jamesahurst.com, and he's got his dialogue seminar masterclass this weekend. Yeah, James, any parting words of wisdom or advice for our viewers before we sail away?
Keep writing.
There you go. That's it. That's it. Words.
Words.
I love it. Awesome, guys. Everyone, really, thank you so much. This is such a fun time. It's a highlight every week. I hope you guys learned something, had some fun, and made some progress with your writing. And just remember, take time for yourselves. We are writers. We need to do this. Doesn't have to be always here, but throughout the week, try to make time for your craft, for your passion. And with that, we will say farewell again. I hope to see everyone December 3rd for the next Let's Write Scripts on the Arc Studio Screenwriting channel. Until then, farewell and happy writing, everyone.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yes, exactly. All right.
All right.